relationships are intentional, and that's how God created us. We are a community of humanity, and those with like faith. We're connected there, but that's where we find joy. That's where we thrive. And RV is just a avenue for that.
Welcome to the Up Your Average podcast, where Keith and Doug give no-nonsense advice to level up your life. So buckle up and listen closely to Up Your Average.
Good morning.
Switch over.
Another beautiful day here at Gimbal World Headquarters, and as you can tell from my t-shirt, life is good. And Caleb, how's your day?
It's going well so far.
We are fortunate to have our friend Charlie Power joining us today, and what we wanted to talk about a little bit today was, in some of our core beliefs, is that you need to live adventurously, and Charlie is near and dear to our hearts as a person, but also what he does vocationally is near and dear to our hearts. He's a director of operations in RV country out west. Charlie, you've dealt with people buying RVs for many, many years now, and I'm sure there's repeat buyers. There's people that are, just a variety of different motivations. But what would you say to somebody that has never jumped in a pop-up camper, a trailer, or a RV to suggest they might look at the world of travel via recreational vehicles?
Yeah. Well, it's a different experience for pretty much everyone, because they have driving motivation. Some people are living in them now because we see a greater influence, specifically out here in West Coast, where housing is so expensive and apartments are expensive. We see people purchasing a large fifth wheel destination trailer, and they get a $700 a month payment, a $200 a month site payment, and they actually own something. So that's actually kind of driving some dynamics shifts in the industry. But it really goes back to family connections and relationships with people. We look back through time and history, we're human race or nomads. We love to venture out and gravitate from continent to continent, and then eventually from the East Coast to the West Coast, and wagon trains. And it's just, the RV is just a glorified version of letting your self go on a big adventure, and bring your family along too. And it's a good communal relation building event. So right now, when I got into the business in 1989, the average age buying was like 65 years old. And over the years, that age demographic had steadily lowered, and hitting a low of about in the high 30s to right around 38 to 40 when COVID hit, because people wanted to get out and spend time with their family. And, it really helped the industry, and the business was great. But now that the dynamics quickly change, because it's all related to a scale of economics. Since COVID, we've seen inflation go up. West Coast, we've seen a lot of fuel prices go up because the local governments have put on these additional gas tax, because they want to force the EV revolution on the West Coast. And so there's just people having less money, and with interest rates going up, they're buying less. So we've actually seen that segment of young buyers and families decrease, and now our average age is back up into the mid 50s. The baby boomers, the tail end of the baby boomers, but people are still camping. They are still going out with their families. And I've known families that they spend Thanksgiving or holidays as a caravan to go somewhere.
Let me ask
And
you a question, Charlie. Kind of as we were starting this, I was thinking one direction, but maybe we just chase this another direction. And I don't know the answers, and so you might be able to help me. What I was thinking was that there is a housing crisis or problem for
Mhm.
young people like Caleb to find a place to live. And I don't know whether it's true or not. I heard years ago the KOAs were kind of behind the move to close down the Walmart parking lots for people to camp overnight. A lot of Walmarts around the country, you can't park there anymore. And that made it harder for people traveling. But let me ask you this. If, say, Caleb wanted to build equity and he said, I'm just going to buy a trailer, how would one go about finding a place where they could park that relative to, say, a metropolitan area like Indianapolis? And
Mhm.
and then I would assume in a short order for what you'd pay in a mortgage, you'd have your trailer paid for, and then you could live there long enough to build up some equity. How would one go about that in your perspective?
Just local research, finding locations where it's going to allow long-term stays. Locking into a year-long stay rather than few weeks. It's always going to save you a lot of money. And so it's we sell them to college kids. Where parents are helping them to have something by the time they get out of school. Um, it's about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was about 10% of the industry, and over 1 million people were living in RVs year round, full time. Now it's increasing because of economics. But the RV lifestyle is no different than laying your head down on a bed. Is just really where you call your home. And usually when you have your home, you have your family. And that's why you have RV communities. There's communities in Arizona of thousands of RVs that people flock down for the snowbird because they want to get out of the cold winter weather that you experience in Indiana, and Washington or North Dakota. And these people go down for 3 to 4 months, and they enjoy just a nice, good old sunshine of the South. And what I see in talking to these people, um, it's they go for the relationships too. It's just not going down for the sun and the weather, but they go down and they look forward to the relationships that they've established over the years. And as you age out of that, that's the hardest thing for them to let go of. And
Yeah, I
so
think
it's
that's a big deal.
yeah.
We one of the things we discovered as we traveled the country, Charlie, is that we built relationships with people. The campsites would enable you to make some short-term friendships, which was really cool. But we also discovered that we could park our rig in places that gave us views that we couldn't afford to have permanently.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so this picture, as I was roaming the parking lot of, I think it's called the Malibu RV Park, and we had the same view out the front window of our RV that Cher had in her house about a half mile down the road. And I saw
Yeah.
this, probably this was on the back end, I think about $500,000 rig. And I just thought that was really fun, that what you're saying, the community, the experience, the family
Mhm,
involvement, that ex-tenter kind of
mhm.
said the whole thing. They started
Yeah,
with what they could afford and they built their way up to the big rig.
yeah, yeah. And what's influencing our industry is that the industry has a generational effect. So if like you've introduced your family and friends to the concept of RVing from the stories that you've shared. And as they grow to that point of economic stability in their life, uh, that's one thing that they look forward to embracing. And we have a very high percentage of, you know, kids that were camping with mom and dad and grandpa and grandma and all the aunts and uncles that that's one of their life goals is to get an RV and introduce their kids to it. So, we do have a good reciprocating generational effect. I would like to see University of Michigan do a study on it because, several conversations I've had with different people in the industry, they all agree. We just would like to know how many people are actually in generations. And one time I knew of a family that had four generations, actually five, but grandma and grandpa couldn't drive anymore. And there was like close to five generations that would go and spend Thanksgiving at a park. And that's just how they, uh, shared their life with one another. And everybody's always got a story. People love stories of what happened on a road trip and this or that. And I'm sure you've had your stories too. But it affords you to go out there and see America where rather than just seeing it on a screen or a movie, you're getting to experience it. And you're get to experience it with people you love and care about.
Caleb, tell me this. You I think, were four when you first jumped in a rig. And it was the summer that the Cars movie was released. And that was, I think, your first movie. But from having jumped in an RV, can you remember at all what it was like to jump in one at four?
No, I just have memory of the is it the whale down in is it Tech?
Oklahoma?
Yeah, I have a memory of that being angry that I couldn't get in the nasty water, and then I feel like I have another faint memory, but I don't remember it for the most part.
So you were four though when you first jumped in it, and then you had the repetition of the year. So when you would wake up one morning at some point when you can recall and look out the front and see a big rig out in front of the house, what did you think?
That an adventure is about to go down. Don't know what's the next week or two or three is going to look like, but it's going to have some memories and some stories to tell afterwards.
And what do you think, Caleb? Do you think that did you learn not only from what you saw, but one of the assurances of an RV is something's going to go off the rails? And does anything about that jump out at you from the times it went off the rails?
I mean, we were talking about this last night with Judah and her family when we were driving to Alaska and popped a tire in the middle of nowhere and had to eventually get it towed, but didn't have any cell service. This was 10, 15 years ago, so service wasn't as good as it is now. But just knowing that it's all going to work out and you don't, I mean, it might be a high stress in the moment, but you can kind of take a step back and know that you're going to get where you need to. Might not look like how you envision, but you're going to have a story and it's going to be all right in the end.
Tell me this, Charlie. I kind of had a coach when I started RVing, and his name was Scott Badger. And Scott was sitting in I don't remember if he was in a car repair place or something. And somehow the conversation came up and the person said, "Man, I've always wanted to go RVing." And Scott said to him, "No, you haven't." And it sounded kind of rude. He said, "If you wanted to go RVing, you would have gone already." And I think what Caleb was just describing is maybe what is a barrier to some people is that things will go off the rails. And how would you sell somebody on the idea, don't let that speed bump get in the way of moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I go back to life's all about the relationships that we have with one another. And that's what RVing does. It connects people. It connects people that you meet on the road. It connects your own family. I mean, look at the engagement that you had with your children riding down the road and they're doing their thing. All these conversations are going on. He's probably watching Cars on the DVD, TV screen, and you're just enjoying life. and then you've got destination after destination. So it's an adventure. And so what it does, it creates memories. And we raised three daughters. And, of course, being in the business, we were taking them RVing when they were, you know, Caleb's age, when they were 4 and 5 and all the way through the years. And, we've gone to Yellowstone, Grand Canyon, the West Coast, just all different places. And of course, we've had the affordability to take them to Disney or take them to Europe or someplace like that when they were older. And the girls still talk about the RV trips, more fun and more adventurous than any other um, thing they've ever done. And so one time we were at Disney. They were about 7, 9, and 10. And, the crowds waiting in line, and, it wasn't quite as fun for them. And I just asked them that night, I said, "Hey, of all the trips we ever taken, what would you want to do again?" And they said, "Oh, we want to go to Yellowstone." So we were traveling from Texas all the way to Yellowstone, spending a week there and seeing family in Montana and coming back down in about a 2 to 3 week period. So when I knew that we weren't just not selling and servicing RVs, we were creating memories for families. Because my daughters said they'd rather take an RV trip over, taking some cruise or some trip to Disney.
I think that's I think that's probably been our experience as well. And I I want to share another kind of life lesson from RVing with our friends that are watching us today. Um, this is I'm not a big selfie person, but one of the principles about life that I learned from RVing is when things go off the rails, before you lose your mind, grab your phone, no matter what's going on, and take a selfie, because whatever's going on probably in 6 to 12 months isn't going to be as stressful as the moment. And what this picture is our RV up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And you said something to me while I was driving, Caleb. I don't remember. Do you remember what you said to me? There's a noise out there, Dad. And we're on a 2-lane road going 55 miles an hour. And I looked in the rearview mirror and discovered what the noise was and pulled off the side of the road. And we had to deal with the awning. Some reason decided to come out going 55 miles an hour. And so when I pulled off the road, before I even decided we were going to work on fixing it, I took this selfie of me. Like if your emotions go from 1 to 100, they're probably about 99 when this picture was taken. Mm-hmm. But I had the wherewithal to take the picture and say, you know what, this is going to work out all right. And it did. It's a hilarious story because we got the awning in, we got back, we did what we were going to do. But it also taught me in life that when something here in the office goes wrong, it's going to be okay.
It all works out. And, get back to your question earlier, what could you tell customers or people looking at RVing is, don't sweat the small stuff, because little things are going to happen on your trip, where you forget to pack something and you're getting there and you're like 50 miles from the nearest grocery store. Well, you improvise. And, I've had blowouts going down the road in a diesel pusher going 70 miles an hour. It was quite knuckling to experience on the front tire. But then you just call your roadside service, because the RV industry has multiple roadside services, and they ask about your tire size, and they bring a tire out for you, because, nobody's going to change a tire on the side of the road, because, they're too big to handle, and we don't have air impact wrenches. And so there's a lot of services out there just to make sure customers are going to be taken care of. And now with today's technology, my goodness, you can get the manufacturer online and do video share and go over problems. And there's so many YouTube videos. I mean, we constantly create YouTube videos just for our customer base to follow us on social media about how to service your generator. And, you need to service your ACs every year. And so there is a somewhat of a maintenance effect, but you got to look at, why are you doing it? And is it worth to bring people together and family together and enjoy the good life of getting out and seeing God's creation?
Say I'm 65, 70 years old, and I've never kind of taken the initiative to go out and do this. And I'd like to go see Mount Rushmore. I'd like to go to Yellowstone. How would you suggest? Because getting behind a big rig or something might be a little intimidating at that season in life. How would you kind of suggest an on ramp to somebody in that series?
There's a lot of companies out there that rent from travel trailers, and you can get the truck and the trailer together, or truck and fifth wheel together. There's people out there who will teach people how to drive. We've done that. We've taken out our customers into a big Walmart parking lot and help them out. And believe me, and I know, if you drive a motorhome, we're going to ding it. So that's why we have body shops. That's why we have insurance. And I've got some hilarious stories where just people are just not operating their RV very well, but you get an orientation when you go rent something, and or when you buy something. And so the reason people buy what they buy is they first establish the need and what fits their desire of how they how they are putting themselves into that experience. And floor plan's the number one reason people buy what they buy. And then they look at brand and manufacturer and local dealer, and affordability. The nice thing is you can get into an RV for, $150 a month, easy. So it's really, how you prioritize what you want to get out of it, and have a little faith, get out there, and you're going to find the RV friends and community to figure out what fits your needs. I've seen people walk in and say, "Hey, we decided to buy a motorhome today." And they've never RV'd, they've never done anything. And then, they're a little bit overwhelmed, and they realize, well, we should have started smaller. And typically, um, people that make a rash decision, usually it takes them about 3 to 4 RVs before they figure out what they really want. Yes,
That's
but if
probably
you
true in most things in life.
yeah, yeah, but if you're in that RV community with family and neighbors and friends, you pretty quickly get acclimated to what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And so um, that's an avenue, is to find people that can help you, make that decision of what's going to be best for you.
Caleb, do you remember this?
No, I do not.
I don't. It's a beautiful little pen that says thanks for the kicks, and says Philippians 1:6, and it says that verse says, "I thank my God in all my remembrance of you." Our first trip was retracing Route 66
Oh yeah.
from Chicago to Santa Monica. I had never driven an RV. I had 5 children. Caleb was the youngest at 4. And I was stirred to get these pens made because I knew I was going to need help on the road. And so we made these pens to give to people who helped us on the road. And so the first RV I was driving, it was raining in rush hour in downtown Chicago as I'm jumping on Route 66, and we followed it. It took us days to get all the way across the country, but we probably gave a couple hundred of these to people that helped us along the way. And I would encourage you that if you're looking at life and there's something out there that's scaring you or concerning you, that you will be shocked at how helpful people will be to help you, particularly the RV community. I've been blown away by the kindness, the generosity, and the helpfulness. And I could go on for hours about that particular community, but I think it's a broader thing that helps people see life. And the other thing we learned from that being our first RV trip is the kids' friends were saying, "Where are you guys going on vacation?" And they would say, "We're going on Route 66, which is not a destination. And so what that RV trip helped us teach our children is that life is about the journey and not the destination.
Yeah.
And I would bet that you hear that a lot from people,
Yeah.
Charlie, as you're helping them and encouraging them.
Oh, yeah. Route 66, that's where I grew up in Oklahoma, in western Oklahoma. You pass by my little hometown about 5 miles away.
I bet we did.
Those are little narrow roads for a big white RV. They were made for Model Ts.
There are a lot of stories on that road for us, and
Yeah.
we drove across the country for my daughter's wedding this last fall, and Connie and I had time, and our friend John and Jeannie, they jumped off the interstate, and we took some Route 66 time. But we're very grateful for your time. But what else would you tell somebody in closing today, Charlie, if they're thinking about, I really like to see the U.S. and maybe this is something. Maybe I should do it.
Well, I tell you, it's a very affordable vacation. I've known people to fly into a city and rent something, and like fly into San Francisco, then they go see the redwood forest, and track up all the way to Yellowstone, and then drop it off somewhere in Montana, then fly home. People do that, but I would start off just finding your local state parks. If you have a national park nearby, look at renting, and just get out there and be willing to connect, because um, relationships are intentional, and that's how God created us. We are a community of humanity, and those with like faith. um, we're connected there, but that's where we find joy. That's where we thrive. And RV is just a avenue for that.
Man, I think that's a great word. When you said that, I had a flashback to a park in British Columbia, and I was walking back after we did laundry, and one of the people sitting out in front of his RV said something to me, and I stopped there. I probably spoke with him for a half hour, and he said, "What you need to do, Keith, is you need to get on this road and go north up here. And it'll take you an hour and a half, but you'll see some of the most amazing waterfalls you've ever seen in your life." And then he told me a couple other things that we did on that thing. And maybe that's the relational part of all things in life. I think few people sit on their front porches anymore, but RVing, that is, you want to get out of that space and sit on your front porch, and you're going to build some really cool relationships if you're willing to get out there, give it a shot. Charlie, I'm thankful for your friendship. I'm thankful for you joining us and encouraging people. And I trust that today will be a great day for you, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you, Keith.